All right, let's talk about it. Cloud versus on-prem. For years, this has been one of the biggest, loudest debates in tech, right? Where is your data actually safer? You've got people on both sides with some really strong opinions, but honestly, a lot of it is just based on old myths. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise and get to what really matters.
So let's just put it out there, plain and simple. Who wins? If we put them head-to-head, which one is actually more secure? But here's the twist. That is completely the wrong question to be asking. See, the winner isn't a place. Real security isn't about picking a location off a menu. It's about understanding who's responsible for what, knowing what the real risks look like, and having the right processes. So let's reframe this whole debate around what actually keeps your data safe.
Okay, let's start with the single most important idea that separates cloud from on-prem security. Who owns the risk? This all comes down to something called the shared responsibility model, and trust me, it changes absolutely everything. Here's how it breaks down. In the old-school on-prem world, it is all on you. I mean everything. The physical security of the building, the servers, the network switches, the patching, the database config, every single layer is your problem. But in the cloud, it's different. It's a partnership. Your provider handles some things, and you handle the rest. So just look at this. The cloud provider, they're handling the heavy lifting, the physical stuff, the concrete data centers, the servers, the core network. But you, the customer, are always responsible for your data. And this is the crucial part. You're responsible for who can access it. You know, the biggest mistake I see people make is they just assume the cloud provider handles all the security. They don't. If you mess up a configuration, that is 100% on you.
And because that responsibility is split, it totally changes how attackers try to get in. They don't use the same playbook for both. We're talking about completely different threat surfaces.
So for a typical on-prem setup, a breach often starts from the inside, or at least looks like it. You know, an attacker gets a hold of some employee's login, finds an old server that hasn't been patched in forever, and then just starts moving sideways across the internal network until, boom, they hit the database. The real weakness here is usually slow patching and just not having good visibility inside your own four walls.
Now, let's flip over to the cloud. The threat is totally different. It is almost always a simple human mistake. A developer accidentally leaves a database port open to the entire internet. An API key gets leaked on GitHub. Attackers aren't pulling off some complex hack on Amazon's or Google's data centers. They're literally just walking through the digital front doors that we accidentally leave wide open.
And this brings us to such a critical point. If the biggest risk in the cloud is just a simple mistake, then the most important defense you have is controlling who can do what. In the cloud, your security perimeter isn't a firewall anymore, it's identity.
And believe me, the stakes here are unbelievably high. This isn't just theory. Getting your identity and access management, your IAM policies, wrong is one of the top reasons for major cloud breaches today, period.
Think about it. On-prem, you're usually dealing with individual accounts and static passwords, which are a nightmare to manage and audit. The cloud uses these powerful centralized roles, which is great, but it's a massive double-edged sword. One mistake, like giving a service account way too many permissions, is like handing an attacker the keys to your entire kingdom. Of course, building strong walls is only half the battle. Real security is also about being able to see what's going on and then being able to respond fast when something bad happens.
And this is one area where the cloud just has a huge built-in advantage. You get tools for centralized logging and automated alerts right out of the box. But here's the catch. And you knew there was a catch, right? These incredibly powerful tools are completely useless if you don't turn them on, configure them the right way, and actually watch them. A security alert that nobody ever sees is just noise.
All right, so we've looked at who's responsible, how attackers get in, and how we monitor for threats. Let's bring it all back home and finally answer that first question we asked.
So which one is it? Is it the cloud, with all its powerful tools but really complex configurations? Or is it on-prem, where you have total control but also total responsibility?
And the real answer is neither of them. That's right, neither one is secure by default. Security isn't about where your server physically sits, it's about discipline, it's about process. The cloud gives you an incredibly strong foundation, but it is brutally unforgiving if you make a mistake. On-prem gives you total control, but it demands constant, unending work.
So here's the bottom line. The crucial thing is to focus on what actually matters, no matter where your data lives. Get it through your head that security is about responsibility, not location. Know that most failures are going to happen because of a bad configuration or a weak identity policy. And remember, whether your database is in your office basement or in the cloud, the goals are always exactly the same. Limit who can get in, see what they're doing, and be ready to respond fast.
So let's just end on this one thought. Stop asking where your data is secure. Start asking how you are securing it every single day. Because security isn't a product you can buy or a location you can choose. It's a discipline, and it's one you have to practice.